in this battle, we are taking on Beast Gamer JS. Now, I put this at like 2.5 times speed because this battle was like close to an hour long. It was a pretty long battle. So anyways, he leads with his Galvantula and I lead with my Absol. This is basically what's known as a force switch because I'm in insane pressure right now. And if he just goes for a Bug Buzz, then it's probably going to be enough to one-shot me and make me lose my Mega. And I didn't think it was worth the trade-off. Now, I could theoretically outspeed him and go for a knockoff and bring him low, but I didn't know if this guy had a Focus Sash, so I don't want to take the risk. Now, unfortunately, he went for the Sticky Web there rather than an attack because I guess he knew I was going to switch out, so I didn't want to lose my Absol. So now we're going to have to deal with a Sticky Web. And unfortunately, I didn't bring any Defogger or like Rapid Spin or anything like that to take care of the spikes. Really, Absol is my solution to entry hazards. So I was expecting to just get it in and use Magic Bounce, but unfortunately Galvantula kind of countered that. So anyway, Snorlax is my special defensive wall, which I've been using in this specific team, and I decided to go into it on Galvantula. Then he switched into Toxapex, which really isn't too bad if you think about it, because I actually have Rest. But I saw this as a great chance to get an Absol. Now, unfortunately though, he did actually end up getting the burn with this Scald. So that means that it's actually not a great sign. Now the good thing is, instead of running Defog on my Togekiss, I run Heal Bell, so that way, let's say something like a burn happens, then I can go back and I can get Absol back to viability. Because if I didn't have Heal Bell, then a burn right here would probably cost me Absol for the rest of this battle. Like it does not need to be burned. So anyways though, he goes into Shaman, and I still do pretty good damage with that knockoff even after the burn, although it's still not that great, and I'm forced to basically switch out here. I mean, if I didn't get burned, I would have just gone for a Sucker Punch, but unfortunately I did end up getting burned, so I didn't have that option available. So here I go into Togekiss because, you know, I figured that this would be a decent switch in, and if I can just get Paralysis on this Shaman, then it won't be that effective anymore, because without Paralysis, I mean, it basically outspeeds my whole team, and I really can't do anything against Air Slash. So, you know, I mean, other than Priority, which I have with Sizer and Sucker Punch through Absol, but I really just wanted to get in and get my Heal Bell off. Although here he went into Galvantula. Now I knew that he was probably going to make a prediction because, you know, this guy's expecting me to switch out too much, so I decided to stay in. And now he's probably going to go for an electric type attack, so I decided this is a good chance to switch out. So actually he goes for a Thunder, and I'm glad I switched out, so that probably would have been enough to one-shot my Togekiss. And I'm surprised because Galvantula is actually a lot better than I thought it was, but I mean, that stab type combination is not something I can easily counter, so I don't really have something that resists both electric and bug type on this team specifically, at least. So he goes back into Toxapex, and I find this to be a great chance to get Togekiss in because I really want to just get a Heal Bell off. And you know, if you went like the worst he could do here is Toxic, and you know that wouldn't matter if I have Heal Bell. So that's why this is a chance to get Togekiss in and bring my Absol back into the game. Now here he goes into Glasgow, which is too bad because, you know, I can't paralyze this and I can't burn it. I can't really do too much about it. So like ideally I would have wanted to eliminate its its Toxic Wars. I don't want it to get Poison Heals. That ability is just straight up annoying to have to deal with. But unfortunately, it did kick in, and now we're gonna have to deal with that for the rest of this battle. So anyways, here he goes for a Swords Dance, but luckily I installed Rock Tomb onto this Tangrowth. Now you could also run Hidden Power Ice, which probably would be effective here too, but for me Rock Tomb works just fine because, you know, without the speed, Glasgow can't really do much, and his main attack is Knockoff, and he doesn't really have any other coverage. So I mean, Tangrowth can basically shut down Glasgow by coming in. So this is basically a force switch for him. I mean, he goes for a couple of Swords Dances, but it isn't really that effective. He really can't do much. So he switches out into Shaman, and that's fine because I go for Rock Tomb again, and I bring this guy now to yellow HP. So that means that basically Sizer or Absol can come in and finish him off with priority, which is good. Although that doesn't change the fact that it's still a dangerous Pokemon because, I mean, I can't really get Absol in on Shaman because it actually hits relatively hard, and Absol will die to an Air Slash. And Sizer, let's say I make a wrong read, I'm going to take some big HP. And like, once again, even if I get Sizer in, he can just switch out into Toxapex. So I ideally don't want to put too much damage on my Sizer. Like, I'm trying to preserve it in case I need it later on in the game, especially because Absol is so low right now, and I do need an offensive Pokemon. I can't just rely fully on defensive Pokemon for this battle. So anyways, I go into Toxapex here. Just like, I can't really do anything against air slash spam, because he outspeeds my whole team, and the best thing I can hope for is just landing status. So once I get status, that thing's gonna be either on a timer or it's gonna lose its speed, and then I could deal with it a lot easier. So anyways, he goes into Glass Guard here, and Tangrowth really is the definitive check in most cases now, because now that he's gone for knockoff, I mean, I have nothing to lose going into Tangrowth. So he goes into Toxapex on Tangrowth, and this is not really the best situation because he can get Toxic off, and I don't want Tangrowth to get poisoned, because then his Glass Guard could suddenly become dangerous. Although, at the same time, being able to knock off his Toxapex will be useful later on in the battle. So now here I decided to go into Togekiss on his Toxapex, because Togekiss basically comes in for free, and I wanted to get a heal ball off. That was like my main priority. It was even more important to me than getting a Roost off, because for me, I need to make sure that my Tangrowth is in good condition to check his Glass Guard, because without Tangrowth, I'd be in big trouble if that Glass Guard wanted to start getting set up. So here though, he goes into his Gengar, and I mean, I was just praying that he didn't have Levitate on this. Like in Gen 7, they removed the ability to Levitate, and I'm glad they did that, because if they didn't, this Gengar would probably be pretty problematic for my team. So here he goes for a Shadow Ball. I guess he was making a prediction, but it's a good thing I went to Snorlax, because this is immune to that, and it's also my main special defensive wall on this team, so it comes in pretty easily on Gengar, and it can pressure him out with Earthquake. So he actually stays in and takes big damage, and it was actually close to a one-shot. I don't know. I think he must be running. I don't know what kind of item he's running. I wanted to think Focus Sash because he lived in like 1 HP, but I don't really know, because I didn't get to see the prompt that said that he lived because of that. So anyways though, we end up both switching out here. I mean, I'm not fully sure exactly what happened, but I went to Sizer, he went to his Glass Guard. Although this is not a great matchup, because I mean, I can't really do too much damage to him. He has healing and my Sizer doesn't, so it's not really worth the trade-off of taking damage from my Sizer just to hit him, where he can hit me decently hard with his Earthquake. So anyways, he goes into Galvantula here in my Togekiss, and I go into Tangrowth. I'm not sure what happened here. I guess I was expecting him to go for a knockoff, and I didn't want my Togekiss to lose its recovery. So that's why I did that. Although here, this is not a great matchup, because now he has his Galvantula out, and this can do some super effective damage. Although the good thing is Snorlax can still come in pretty easily, because it's just that tanky. And here I decided to go for rest, because now Snorlax is getting dangerously low, and I don't want to lose it this early in the battle, so I'll need it for the rest of this guy's special attackers. So here he goes for a withdraw into Gengar, which is fine, because really Gengar can't really do too much to me, or at least so I didn't think. I mean, maybe he was trying to play mind games with me and get me to switch out again into whatever I switched into earlier. So here he goes for a Dazzling Gleam, probably making a prediction of some sort, although it really didn't. I guess he was expecting me to go into Absol, and it didn't do any damage, which is great. Snorlax absolutely eats all these attacks, and then he stays in and actually gets finished off. I mean, I guess right there, if he was willing to sack his Gengars, he probably didn't really see much of a need for it, since Snorlax basically shuts it down. And now he brings in the big danger, which is his Mega Medicham. And this is not something you want to play around with. Like, I had to really take my time and consider my choices here, because nothing switches into Medicham too easily. Now, if you make a good prediction, yeah, you can switch into it, but it's pretty prediction reliant, because it has Zen Headbutt, it has High Jump Kick, it has Ice Punch. All three of those moves can be really dangerous if you make a wrong read on this guy. So anyways though, I was expecting him to probably go for a High Jump Kick, because that's a pretty safe move, although instead he actually goes for a Fake Out, which is great. It actually does not do too much damage. Now I decided I need to switch out, because Toxapex will be at risk of being one-shotted by his Zen Headbutt. So I mean, I think Toxapex could live. Actually, I don't really know, but I mean, I think Toxapex might be able to live, although it's going to be really low. I didn't think it was really worth trying to play around when I could go into Tangrowth or Sizer and take those hits pretty well. So the good thing is though, instead he actually switches out. He probably didn't really have great coverage for Toxapex, so that did work out decently well, because even though Sizer and Glass Guard is an unfavorable matchup, Glass Guard can't really do too much against me on a good read. So I mean, I can just go into Tangrowth without really any consequences, because like really, what is this guy gonna do to my Tangrowth with his Glass Guard? So anyways though, here he actually goes into Shaman, making a prediction, which is fine because for me, I mean, it's better to play safe than be unpredictable, at least in this specific battle. So the thing is, Shaman is actually a problem though. It's like I did want to try and limit how many times it could get in, because you know, once it starts spamming air slash, you really can't do much except hope that you get lucky and land a status, because once I land a status, Shaman will be muted and won't really be an issue anymore. But without that, I mean, he's gonna be able to run freely, and I can't really get Sizer in easily once again. So even if I switch into it, I mean, he can just switch out and it will just basically make it pointless. So I mean, here I go for a Toxic. Of course, that's the best move. I mean, I would not go for Scald on a Shaman in case he starts spamming Air Slash. And he goes into Glass Skirt, which is once again fine, because I mean, he can make reads, but he can't really do much off of Glass Skirt. Like, there's no capitalization off of that. So I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not too worried about any predictions, at least in this specific segment of the battle. So anyways, here I go for a Giga Drain. So I'm just trying to dish out damage, and he goes into Toxic Pex. I mean, it really doesn't do anything. But now I'm thinking, well, you know, he's probably gonna go for Toxic again, but I'm willing to make the trade-off as long as I can land a Sleep Powder in this Toxic Pex, because if I get a Sleep Powder off, then I can get Absol in, and I can start trying to sweep. So he goes for a Scald here, and you know, I guess he must have been trying to make a prediction or something, and luckily that didn't burn. So I see this as a great chance to get Absol in, and you know, Absol really is my key to doing damage to this guy's team, because if he's not careful, I can tear a huge hole with Absol. Like, Absol doesn't really get in easily, but once you get it in, if you play it right, you know, this can be an absolute team destroyer. So here I decided to consider my options, and I decided, you know, well, this is probably time to commit to the Swords Dance. I mean, I only have one chance to do this due to the nature of Absol being so frail. So here I go for a knockoff. He goes for a Scald. Luckily, we barely live it, although that still does pretty good damage considering how weak Toxapex is. So that just shows how frail Absol is. Now here I decided to go for another knockoff. So I know he is going to have to switch out. Like, there's no way he's staying in. And I specifically did not go for a knockoff on his Glasker, because I knew that it's going to be pointless, since, you know, I mean, it wouldn't really do much. And if I saved it for later, like right here, I was going to do big damage. Now, here's the thing. This was where it was going to be difficult. I had to predict what this guy was going to do. If I went for Sucker Punch and he predicted it and went for Roost, it wasn't going to be effective. But I was expecting him to go for a Roost, which is why I went for Knockoff rather than Sucker Punch. Although I guess either he predicted me or wasn't aware that I had Sucker Punch, because he just went for a knockoff there, and that was enough to unfortunately finish me off. Now in that case, if I went for Sucker Punch, I think I probably would have swept to the rest of this guy's team. I mean, because I don't think he really had anything else to deal with the Absol. But unfortunately, I got that read wrong, and now I'm gonna have to suffer the consequences, because I lost my wall breaker, and you know, and now, you know, I really have no other way to tear through this guy's team. Now another, I guess, bad play I made in this was, instead of going for Bullet Punch, I went for a knockoff. So I was expecting him to go into his Toxapex, although he actually stayed in. I thought that partly he was doing this to bait me to play aggressively, and then he was going to get Toxapex in and then get his Regenerator back, which is why I went for knockoff, although he actually stayed in with his Glasker. So I mean, partly, the unfortunate thing about Pokemon is a lot of it is down to 50-50s, and I get both of those 50-50s wrong, and that costed me a lot of time, because now this battle is going to keep going, and I decided to switch out my Sizer, because now once he was roosted, I figured that I really wouldn't be able to finish him off with the damage I was doing, and I didn't want to let him do any more additional damage to my Sizer in case I needed it at full HP for later on in this battle. So I'm trying to play it safe now, so that's what I have to do. So anyways though, unfortunately, he starts getting his Toxapex back to full HP and his Glasker. So basically, everything I did with my Absol just got completely violated. I mean, he's basically fully recovered from that. So, and then in addition, I missed my Sleep Powder, which is a bit annoying, but it is what it is. So, I decided, well, this is going to be a good chance to get Togekiss back at full HP, because I mean, it is kind of injured right now, and I do need it to be at full HP for later on, because, you know, he does have his Shaman, which I still need to deal with, and then you know, I mean, I do ideally want to get status on this Toxapex. Like, if I can get paralysis or something, it will be pretty useful. So I mean, I do want this to be healthy, just so I can, you know, fulfill those goals. So anyways, here he goes into Galvantula, and the good thing is I predicted that and went for an Air Slash. So I was tempted to go for a T-Wave, but I knew he was probably going to switch at some point soon. And he was probably expecting me to do that, which is good because now his Galvantula is only at 1 HP, so he can only do one more attack because of the Life Orb damage, which will inevitably finish him off the next turn. So I mean, I decided to go into Snorlax to eat that up. That actually does huge damage, but it is enough to finish off the Galvantula. And I mean, now at this point in the battle, I was kind of thinking, well, Snorlax kind of has done its job. I mean, it's basically walled and eaten up so many hits. It's definitely the MVP in this game so far because I mean, it's been so useful taking care of all of these special attackers. Like, I don't know what else I would do if I didn't have Snorlax here in this game. And I was thinking about it last minute too. Like, I was about to use something else, but I'm glad I brought Snorlax instead. So anyways, here it's tempting to just stay in and try and finish out the Shaman. It was tempting to just sack my Snorlax. I didn't think I needed it anymore, but I decided, well, actually, it could actually be really useful in the post game against Toxapex because Toxapex can't really do anything against Snorlax, and I can set up on it and then potentially do a late game sweep. So I mean, I was thinking a couple of steps ahead there, and I decided that it was going to be worth keeping it in for later, and that will be a move that I'll definitely benefit from. You guys will see later on. So anyways though, here I guess I was making a prediction for him to go into Glasgow, and that turned out to be bad because he actually stayed in with his Shaman, and now I mean, and he is at red HP, but that doesn't really matter that much because I mean, he was still at bullet punch range in yellow. So I mean, that you know what I'm saying. So anyways though, here I decided to go into Togekiss because I mean, I need to get that regenerator HP back up for Toxapex to be effective. And luckily though, he finally does miss one of his air slash, so his spam finally becomes ineffective, and I'm able to finish him off. And I'm lucky for that, so I did not want to have to let that thing do any more damage to the rest of my team. So now here he goes into his Medicham, which is a problem because every time this thing gets in, it's probably going to take something down if I make a wrong read. So now I have to figure out who's going to get sacrificed. Now last time I went into Sizer, so I was thinking, well, he's probably going to expect that, although he might expect me to stay in. So I figured that this would probably be the time to go into Tangrowth. And even if you went for High Jump Kick or Zen Headbutt, Tangrowth should be able to eat it up decently well. Although, I mean, it's still going to be taken down to like yellow HP. But, I mean, it's really the safest play because then I can kind of just switch around and, you know, do things like that. So, anyways, here he goes for a T-Punch. I guess he was expecting me to stay in or potentially expecting me to go into Toxapex. So that turned out to be a really good play because now, I mean, I came in pretty safely and I can probably take in any attack that Medicham has. So he goes for a High Jump Kick, I go for the Sleep Powder, and the good thing is I didn't miss it at the wide-on moment. Like, if I missed that Sleep Powder, I would have been in big trouble. And now his Medicham is asleep. So now I have to decide what I was going to do. I was thinking about going to Snorlax potentially. So I was like, well, maybe I should just sack my idea of using Snorlax in the late game and bringing him right now to do some big damage to Medicham. Although I said maybe I should just stay in actually and go for a Giga Drain just to do some good damage, and then I can switch out because, you know, if he wakes up, he's going to finish off Tangrowth, and I do need Tangrowth for the rest of this battle, especially against this Glasgow. Like that is really important because without Tangrowth, I don't know how I'm going to really deal with it effectively. So here though, I decided to go into Sizer, and I know he's probably going to switch out. There's no way he's going to stay in, so I go for a U-turn. I make the good read because he goes into Toxapex, and even if he didn't switch out, it still would have been good because if he hit me with a High Jump Kick, I'd probably still live, although at very low HP, and then I would hit him probably hard enough to knock him out. So anyways, here I go into Tangrowth on his Toxapex, and I decided to go back into Togekiss because, you know, Togekiss can pretty much shut down Toxapex. So he goes for a Scald, and I mean, it doesn't really do that much right there. And I see this as a good time to go for a Roost and just get me back to full HP because Togekiss is going to be pretty useful here. And now I know for a fact that this guy's only answer to my T-Wave is his Glasgow, and really Glasgow doesn't really come in too easily on Togekiss because, I mean, Air Slash should still do decent damage. But I mean he's still gonna outspeed me, although like what can he really do to Togekiss? I mean, all he has is knockoff, and I resist that. So I mean, maybe he could set up, but that's all he could really do. So anyways, here, I mean, unfortunately I get burned, but that's not that bad because, I mean, it's not the biggest issue. So I decided to go for a T-Wave here, and the good thing is he does stay in and embrace it, and I'm actually lucky I got burned because The burn basically shut down his efforts to toxic me, so you know that was pretty useful. So here now, all he can really do is scald with his Toxapex, and I technically could air slash spam him to death, and you know, judging by the fact that this guy was using Shaman, I didn't really have any Shaman. Typically I wouldn't do this, but because he was doing that to me with Shaman, I want to do it back to him, and he really can't do much here except stay in. Unless he wants to switch out into Glass Current, which he is going to do this turn. So I was thinking, well, what should I do in correspondence to that? And I figured, well, let's just see how much damage F slash does do to his Glass Current. And unfortunately, I mean, it's decent, but it's really not that much. And that's why I hate Glass Current, because it's so good against my team a lot of the time. So anyways, here I decided, well, I'm going to go into Tangrowth, because what's he really going to do to Tangrowth? And he actually goes into Toxapex, I guess, predicting that. And that's not a bad prediction, because now he can get his HP back. But you know, now I was thinking, well, what should I do? I mean, I could stay in, go for a Giga Drain, see if that's enough to finish him off, because he is paralyzed, so I'm probably gonna outspeed him now. And if he gets paralyzed this turn, then Toxapex will probably get finished off, or he's just gonna be in a bad situation where he's gonna have to switch out. Now, unfortunately, he doesn't get paralyzed, and he gets to recover off. So Toxapex is back in good HP. Although now he's in dangerous waters, because you know he's not gonna be able to safely and consistently recover because of the paralysis. So now I'm thinking, well, this is going to be a good time to get Snorlax in. And now that I have Snorlax in, I actually have 3 different routes I can take. Now I have Earthquake, which will do super effective damage to Toxapex. I have Body Slam, which will do big damage if he goes into Medicham. And I have Rest if I wanted to get healthy. Now I was thinking, this guy's probably going to expect me to go for Earthquake or Rest, and he's probably going to bring his Medicham in thinking it's going to be safe. So I decided this will probably be the peak time to go for a Body Slam. And in fact, he does actually switch into Medicham. So this was a great read, because now I bring him back to red HP, and now his Medicham really isn't as effective as it was before, because you know, really Tangrowth could take a hit and finish him off with Giga Drain, or really any of my Pokemon could finish him off, because now he's at red HP. So I was thinking about Sizer, although I was thinking, well, he might make some predictions here, and he's probably going to expect me to think he's going to go for a high jump kick and go for a T-Punch, either expecting my Toxapex or my Togekiss. And luckily, I do predict that guy correctly. And what's even more crazy is that Snorlax is able to live that attack and finish him off with a Body Slam. So really, Snorlax has done everything it's needed to do. This man has actually come in clutch right here. I mean, he finished off Medicham, bro. He finished off Gengar. He finished off Galvantula. I gotta say, it is definitely the MVP in this battle. So anyways, now though, I still want to keep him alive, because I know he can be pretty useful against this guy's Toxapex, because I should outspeed him since his Toxapex is paralyzed, and you know, I could probably get Rest in and then, you know, work something out. So now, I mean, he forfeits, and I'm glad he does, because this probably would have been a PP war. But that was definitely a great battle.